Hello, this is John Michael at Context is Everything Media Network. Today we are back in What's Under Your Hood, a 2001 textbook review. This will take about a year, so bear with me. This is day 3, and this is section 4 of chapter 1, unit 1, world history connections to today. Today being the year, not 2023, Happy New Year, but the year 2001. So we're looking at the context of what history is looked at, how history is described in 2001 as opposed to what we see today, but also just brushing up on your historical information. Why not, right? Used to be a teacher. Here I am using my teacher voice again. Yesterday, we left off on a question, and the question was, what are 3 causes of cultural change? I'll read you the answer in the book, and then we'll move on. How's that? So I see here on this page, right above where it asks the question, it gives you the answer. Interactions among people. This is a direct quote. An even more important source of cultural change was cultural diffusion. The spread of ideas, customs, and technologies from one people to another. Cultural diffusion occurred through migration, trade, and warfare. So those are going to be the 3 that you can take from the textbook. You're going to get those as right answers. They're direct quotes. There might be more, but this question is only asking what are 3, not what are the 3. I'm sure there's more. These are good. And these are evidently true, I would think, right? Migration, trade, and warfare are how cultures migrate. Right. A lot of Chinese culture in this room because I buy cheap Chinese stuff. All right. There you have it. That's the answer to the question. Warfare, trade, and migration. I have a lot of Chinese influence in my culture because I buy a lot of cheap Chinese items. Review assessment. That's too much time, right? To go over the review. Leave in the comments below, should I go over the review sections or should I just carry on? I'm going to carry on. Chapter 2. So chapter 1 was basically about general terms and all that. Nothing specific. Just giving us definitions and terms for things that we'll see later on, like geography, like cultural diffusion, and something else. First civilizations, African and Asia, the year 3020 to the year 500 BC. So that's what we're dealing with. Chapter review, preview. Ancient kingdoms of the Nile, Egyptian civilizations, city-states of ancient Sumer, invaders, traders, and empire builders, the root of Jerusalem. So it seems like we're going to be kind of talking about what we just talked about, just with specific examples, which is good. I like the idea of specific examples in terms of history and context. Specific examples are important. They are important indeed, aren't they? Specific examples are. Section 1, Ancient Kingdoms of the Nile. Silt, Cataract, Delta, Dynasty, Pharaoh, and Vizier are the vocabulary words. I'm not going to get to all of them. I'm just going to skim through it and read whatever I want. Setting the scene. Every year, the Nile River flooded its banks. The people of ancient Egypt sang a hymn of praise. They honored the river for nourishing the land and filling their storehouses with food. If the Nile smiles, the earth is joyous. Every stomach is full and rejoicing. Every spine is happy. Every jawbone crushes its food. Hymn to the Nile, quoted in the literature of the ancient Egyptians. by Irman. The fertile lands of the Nile Valley attracted Stone Age farmers. People migrated from the Mediterranean area, from the hills of the deserts along they emerged that depended on the control of river waters. Stumbled there a little bit. Should I go back? Nah. Geography of the Nile River Valley. Egypt, said the ancient Greek historian Herodotus, is wholly a gift of the Nile. Without the Nile, Egypt would be swallowed up by the barren desert that surrounded it. While the desert protected Egypt from invasion, it also limited where people could settle. Interesting. Yearly floods. The Nile rises in the highlands of Ethiopia and the lakes of Central Africa. Every spring, rains in this interior region send water racing down the streams that feed the Nile River. In ancient times, Egyptians eagerly awaited the annual flood. It soaked the land with life-giving water and deposited a layer of rich silt or soil. So I guess silt is the carried dirt from a different place that is fertile, something like that, by water and water passages. If I'm looking this way, that means I'm looking at myself, self-occupied as I am. If I'm looking over here, that means I'm looking at the camera. Looking at you. Hi. Uniting the land. Ancient Egypt had two distinct regions. Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north. Upper Egypt stretched from the first cataract, or waterfall, of the Nile northward within 100 miles of the Mediterranean. Lower Egypt covered the Delta region where the Nile... enough of that. Old Kingdom. The history of ancient Egypt is divided into three main periods. The Old Kingdom, about 2700 BC to 220 BC. The Middle Kingdom, about 250 to 1800 BC. And the New Kingdom, about 1505 to 1100 BC. I'm not going to retain any of that. I'm not going to keep going into those details. As I said, I like specific details, but I'm contradicting myself now by being bored by them, because I don't really care. Why am I reading this textbook then? These are all good questions. Leave an answer in the comments below. This is Context is Everything Media Network. What's under your hood? 2001 World History book. Reading it in the context of today, 2023, the beginning of. Strong government, pharaohs, viziers. So pharaoh is the ruler, and the vizier is the chief minister. Vizier. The pyramids. Okay, now this is interesting. During the Old Kingdom, the Egyptians built the majestic pyramids that still stand at Giza. The pyramids were tombs for eternity. Because Egyptians believed in an afterlife, they preserved the bodies of their dead rulers, provided them with everything they would need in their new lives. To complete the pyramids, workers hauled and lifted millions of limestone blocks, some weighing 2 tons or more. The builders had no iron tools or wheeled vehicles. Workers quarried the stones by hand, pulled them in sleds to the site, and hoisted them up earthen ramps. Building a pyramid took so long that often a pharaoh would begin to build his tomb as soon as he inherited the throne. The pyramids suggest the strength of ancient Egypt civilization. These costly projects required enormous planning and organization. Thousands of farmers who had to be fed each day worked on the pyramids when not planting or harvesting crops. I don't know if I buy the ramps thing, but I don't know anything. The Middle Kingdom, New Kingdom, Egypt, and Nubia. Let's talk about how about the decline. Decline of the New Kingdom. After Ramses II, Egyptian power slowly declined. Invaders such as the Assyrians and Persians conquered the Nile region. Later, Greek and Roman armies came from the north. Each new conqueror was eager to add the fertile Nile Valley to growing empire. Egypt and Nubia. The Nile Kingdom of Nubia developed south of Egypt. Okay, enough of that. Let's look at the questions and go to the next chapter. That's boring. Give 2 examples of how Nile shaped ancient Egypt. Describe one major... enough of that. It's just setting the scene of Egypt. I'm not testing anybody on this, so I'm not going to continue to read about it. I'm going to go to the next section and look for something interesting. Section 2, Egyptian civilization. Vocabulary words: mummification, hieroglyphics, ideograms, demotic, papyrus, decipher. Okay, setting the scene. From an early age, Egyptian children heard stories about their gods and goddesses. A popular tale concerned the goddess Isis and the god Osiris. Osiris ruled Egypt until he was killed by his jealous brother Set. The wicked Set then cut Osiris into pieces, which he tossed all over Egypt. Brutal. Osiris was saved by his faithful wife, Isis. She reassembled her husband's body and brought him back to life. Because Osiris could no longer rule over the living, he became god of the dead and judged souls seeking admission to the afterlife. The symbol of the divine Isis was the Anka, the cross of a loop above the bar. The Egyptians and Anka placed on the dead person assured the soul eternal life. The blood of Isis, they prayed, the charms of Isis, the power of Isis, are protection unto me. The Egyptians' belief in eternal life had a profound effect on their civilization. They would chant like that. Egyptian religion, chief gods and goddesses, the sun-drenched land of Egypt, the chief god of the sun, Amun-Re, the pharaoh whom Egyptians viewed as god as well as a monarch, was closely linked to Amun-Re. Only the pharaoh could conduct certain ceremonies for the sun god. Most Egyptians identified more easily with Osiris and Isis, whose stories touched human emotions such as love, jealousy, and fear of death. According to the myth of Osiris and Isis, their son Horus later took revenge on the wicked god Set, killing his uncle. Religious rebel. That's kind of interesting. A religious rebel from the perspective of 2001. Again, we're reading a textbook that's written by modern man, so they can frame things however they want. Let's see how they frame this. A religious rebel. In 1380 BC, a young pharaoh challenged the powerful priests of Amun-Re. He devoted his life to the worship of Aton, a minor god, whose symbol was the sun's disk. The pharaoh took the name Akhenaton, meaning he who serves Aton. With the support of his wife, Queen Nefertiti, Akhenaton tried to sweep away all other gods in favor of Aton. He ordered priests to stop worshipping other gods and remove the names of these gods from their temples. Scholars disagree about Akhenaton's goal. Some think the pharaoh was trying to introduce new religion based on the worship of a single god. Others argue that he just wanted to raise Aton to the highest place among the gods. The beliefs had little success. Priests of Amun-Re and other gods resisted the revolutionary changes. The common people, too, were afraid to abandon their old gods in favor of Aton. Nobles also deserted the pharaoh because he neglected his duty of defending the empire. After Akhenaton's death, the priests of the old gods reasserted their power. Didn't work. Whatever. Seemed kind of a blip on the radar. Maybe it was important back then, but didn't really show through. Maybe I'm just not really paying attention. Belief in the afterlife, a fateful test. Remember, previously they said they can use kind of context clues to see they believe in an afterlife because they bury their nobles with their items so as to carry on in an afterlife. Why else would you give them their items, they're saying. Is there written text about it? Well, maybe. Maybe there's written record about their belief in the afterlife rather than we're just taking context clues and making an educated guess. Educated guess being they bury them with items to live. Thus, they believe in an afterlife. That might be true. Let's see what they have to say. Belief in an afterlife. As you read, the Egyptians believed in Osiris and Isis had promised them eternal life after death. Belief in the afterlife affected all Egyptians from the highest noble to the lowest peasant. There you go. There's a quote here from the Book of the Dead. I'm just going to skip to that and read it. I have made no man to suffer hunger. I have made one to weep. I have done no murder. I have not encroached upon the fields of another. I have not added to the weight of the scale to cheat the seller. I have not turned back water when it should flow. I am pure. I am pure. I am pure. The Book of the Dead. I don't know what it's talking about, but it sounds like it might be about dying with a clean conscience. And I'm not going to read any more about it. Mummification. We know what that is. Herbs and spices to preserve the body over time. Picture of King Tut. OG King Tut. Can't hate. Evidence of the tomb of Tutankhamun, King Tut. Many pharaohs were buried in the desolate valley of the kings. Their tombs, filled with fantastic riches, were temptations to robbers in ancient times. As a result, most royal tombs were stripped of their treasures long ago. Then, in 1922, the British archaeologist Howard Carter unearthed the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, the son-in-law of Akhenaton. That's why we're talking about him. It had remained almost untouched for more than 3,000 years. The tomb and its treasures have provided a wealth of evidence about Egyptian civilization. The body of the 18-year-old King Tut had been placed in solid gold coffin nestled within richly decorated outer coffins. Today, the dazzling array of objects found in the tomb fills several rooms of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. They include chariots, weapons, furniture, jewelry, toys, games, and food. Tutankhamun was only a minor king. We can only imagine what treasures must have filled the tombs of the great pharaohs like Ramses II. Egyptian society, the life of a farmer, social change, women. Social change. During the New Kingdom, society grew more fluid as traders and warfare increased. Trade offered new opportunities to the growing merchant class. Foreign conquests brought riches to Egypt, which in turn meant more business for artisans. These skilled craft workers made fine jewelry, furniture, fabrics, and other places for tombs and pharaohs and nobles. Women. Egyptian women generally enjoyed a higher status and greater independence than women elsewhere in the ancient world. Ramses II declared, The foot of an Egyptian woman may walk where it pleases, and no one may deny her. Under Egyptian law, women could inherit property, enter business deals, buy and sell goods, go to court, and obtain a divorce. Huh. Although there were often clear distinctions between occupations of women and men, women's work was not confined to the home. They manufactured perfumes and textiles, managed farming estates, and served as doctors. Women could also enter the priesthood, especially in the service of goddesses. Despite their many rights and opportunities, few women learned to read and write. Even if they did, they were excluded from becoming scribes or holding other governmental jobs. Egyptian learning, written records. We're coming to the end here, but there's some interesting stuff. Maybe it's worth going into. Time is running short. I do need to leave. So why don't we pick up again here? This is an interesting chapter here, talking about the culture, talking about some things about them. And I like it. I do like it. So I'm going to pick a question here, and that'll be the question of the day. And we'll carry on from chapter 2, section 2, tomorrow. Question of the day. These questions suck. Pardon? Take it to the net. Use the internet to research the Rosetta Stone. Then write a headline and a brief news account about decoding the Rosetta Stone. Include quotations from historians or archaeologists explaining why this discovery is so valuable. Take it to the net, folks. 2001. This book was made in. Take it to the net. Remember those? Yeah. So, no question. I don't have a question for today. But this is What's Under Your Hood. Context is Everything network of shows. And my name's John Michael. This book is from 2001, and I'm just reading through it. This is day 3. Have a wonderful evening and day.